Well, the glue is dry and looks like it's time to cut the sail out. The way I do it is to use a ruler to guide my knife and then just cut along the sail here. We'll melt holes after I cut it out, and then we will attach the tension line and the bridle. I'm going to use a portable soldering iron here to poke or melt the holes for the bridle and for the tension line. Now, when you do this, it's a good idea not to have the hot tip of the soldering iron rest against the carbon fiber. The carbon fiber is not going to respond well. It'll weaken it severely. So you just need to be careful about that. And now I'm going to do where the bridle will go in the center. And I'll pull the crossbars away and just melt a couple holes there. I like my Buka to be bridled in such a way that the lower bridle is at the center. I like the way it spins that way. Not everybody does, so it'll be up to you to decide how you want to do it or to experiment. I've experimented a lot. Now, to make the tension line, it's pretty simple. What I do is I use 2 pieces of line. This is about, probably 20-pound test strength braided Dacron. Any line that does not stretch is good, as long as it can withstand about 10 pounds of pressure or without breaking, something like that. It doesn't have a lot of tension on it, really. So I make one piece, a short piece of line that I make a loop, just make an overhand knot and make a loop. And with that loop, I then poke it through one of the holes of the tension line, and I then poke the hole or the knot through the loop on the other side, which makes what is called a lark's head knot. And then I cut off the extra tail. Now that loop will become sort of like a pulley for the tension line. Now the tension line has to be long enough to reach to that loop and then back on itself a little bit. So I'm going to cut a line this long. I don't know. Let's see, this is 24, so probably 30 inches long. It's probably too long, but now the tension line is actually it actually is lined up on the back side of the kite. So I'm going to poke a hole through here, or poke the line through there, and tie a knot, whatever knot you want to use that will hold. That's the knot to use, and tie the line tightly to the leading edge spar, and that is going to be glued to the spar when we're finished. So We want the line to be tight there, and we want it to be strong. I'll cut off the tail here a little bit. And now what I do is I run this line through this loop, pull it back on itself. This is the back side of the kite here. And then I make my larks or my taut line hitch knot. And the way I do it, I just got a little bit too much there, is wrap it around the line 3 times, and then out, under, and now it didn't hold because I didn't secure it well enough. So there, like that. But we don't want to do that. We want to put a dab of glue on each one of these when we're done. And the same with the bridle points. With the bridle line, I use a 15-pound Dacron fishing line that is non-stretch, so any non-stretch line will work. And we need 3 pieces. One piece will be the part that we put up at these points here, which is I call the yoke. And I like to wax the line before I tie it to the kite. It helps to hold the bridle parts together when you're flying the kite. So here, I don't want to tie this to the tension line, so I get that out of the way. And then again, just tie any knot that holds, that you're comfortable with, doesn't on both sides. When I make the yoke on the upper bridle, I like to make it about halfway, have it loop down about halfway between the center and the leading edge. Doesn't have to be there, but I find that to be a good place. Now I wax the other line, which is longer. This is about 24 inches long or thereabouts. And on one end, what I will do is tie a loop, make a loop. I'll just loop the line here, tie an overhand knot, and I have a loop. That loop is going to connect this line to the upper bridle yoke that we just installed on the kite, right here. Put the loop underneath the yoke, then I poke through the loop itself, I poke the knot and the rest of the line through and pull it. And that creates what is called a lark's head knot right here. And it's an adjustable knot that will lock once you get it adjusted. And we'll do that in just a minute. Then the next one, we want to tie on the lower part of the spine. I want mine in the center. You may not want yours in the center, but wherever you have it is fine. If you don't have it in the center, be sure you tie one in the center so that these spars are all secured at the center of the kite. That helps to make the kite fly well. Now, one of the things I like to do is once I get this line, before I tie it, I pull it out to the edge, to the corner, to one corner of the leading edge. I don't want this bridle to go over that, because when the kite's flying, believe me, it will go over there and tangle, and therefore it will become a crashed kite, and you don't want that. I don't want that. So that's what I do to help minimize that. Next piece, I just make a loop. Take about a 6-7 inch piece of line, make a loop, use an overhand knot, or any kind of knot that'll hold. And you want to loop about 2 or so inches long. And I'll cut that off. Now I want to loop this over the long lower bridle line. This will be where I connect my flying line. This is called the toe point. And I just loop it around, pull the knot through, and that's a lark's head knot again on the kite. So now what I want to do is use my trusty tool, wax paper, and I want to put a dab of glue on each point where the bridle is connected and where the tension line is connected. And get it as close as I can and let the glue dry. And while the glue is wet, I am going to pull a little, just a little bit to orient these bridle lines outward. And the same with the tension line, I want to orient it backwards. So it's, when its glue is dry, it's oriented towards the back of the kite. Now let that dry and the kite will be ready to fly. Did not do is I did not put a hem around the leading edge on my kite here. I'm just going to let the glue hold, and it will hold well enough. I hope. In the past it has, I'll put it that way. But I'm going to cut some tape, pieces of tape here, that I will use to reinforce areas of the kite that I know from experience can become damaged, a little bit vulnerable. And they're the corners. I put it so that it will cover all of the spars and then fold over onto the front side of the kite. I did that on this one, and then I'll do something similar on the spine connection on the leading edge. These pieces are about a ½ inch wide and about probably a 3/4 of an inch long, something like that. Doesn't matter, whatever works. And I wrap it around the spar and then fold it over onto the front side of the kite. And on the back, or the trailing edge, I do something similar. Except I just put a piece of square tape there. I have a piece of square tape here, not very big, and I just put it at the corner of the sail and wrap it around the crossbar end here. And I do that on both and on also the tail of the spine. kites ready to go out and have some fun.